What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the castle. That's Card Stock Afterlock. I'm going to be your host today, Will Priester, aka Chief Justice 06. Joined today by my ever faithful card brethren, Tyler Tamboline, aka Toe Tag and Tambo, and a special guest today, all the way from Card Fairyland. It's Michael Jerome, aka Michael J. Cards. Michael, how you doing, man? New friend of the show. Welcome aboard. Excited to have you on.
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. This is my first time on the show, obviously, and really my first time doing anything like this. So I'm excited, and hopefully it's the first of many.
Yeah, absolutely. Tambo, how are things up there in Canada? How's the weather? Hopefully you're not snowed in too bad. What's going on?
It's a little snow and it's cold, and I gotta let everybody know right away if there's any technical difficulties. I apologize. Had a little bit of a glitch here with a microphone, but hopefully it comes across clean and we'll be good to go for the rest of the show.
Yeah, man. Listen, Tambo's a man of the people, so don't you worry. We'll get this thing rocking and rolling. Yeah, we're gonna make it work. So obviously, man, always got to shout out our sponsor. That's sportscardinvestor.com. Listen, I tell everyone, if you want to get in this card business, if you want to be successful, you need to be investing in the product, in the tool that's going to help you make some of those decisions quickly. You get 20% off that first payment. That's first payment for the month or first payment for the year with promo code Grinders. That's promo code Grinders, sportscardinvestor.com. 20% off the first payment, monthly or for the year. I always tell everyone, if you're getting 20% off the year, you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. But we just want to get everybody involved so we can keep you informed. Just a couple other things for housekeeping. Article is going to drop tomorrow. That's our cardboard calculus article written by the man, the myth, the legend, Brennan Ruby. You want to check that out. Brennan is dropping nuggets of knowledge every single cardboard calculus article. You don't want to miss this. It will be live tomorrow, giving us all kinds of nuggets about select, about prism, about pop counts, about some things you probably aren't even going to think of. He's really deep diving from an analytical and data analysis approach with the card investing. You don't want to miss it. That's the cardboard calculus article. We're also going to have the Legend Series this week. And then we're also going to do a little something different where we do kind of a weekly roundup, just talking about our card targets, people we're thinking about targeting, stuff like that. So those articles are going to be out the rest of the week. And now we're going to get on with the rest of the show. So, Michael, this first portion is going to be all about you, man. Just kind of a mini Q&A, introducing the world of Michael J. Cards. How long have you been in the industry and kind of what got you into sports card investing?
Yeah, so I actually, I pretty much started learning and getting into cards about October of this year, of 2020.
Yeah.
So I've been pretty new to it, but I really picked up the ball and started running. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with cards now.
Yeah, well, good, and I think that's good for people to hear, right? Because a lot of times, people may think, we've been doing it a long time, and I have been doing it since I'm a kid. Don't get me wrong, but I really think there's validity into just hopping right in and trying to learn everything that you can learn in terms of sports card investing. I think you've kind of proven yourself. If people don't know who Michael J. Cards is, they will know by the end of the night. I've seen some of the work. I've seen some of the bold calls. I've seen some of the predictions. In fact, let's go ahead and get into one of those. And we don't have a screenshot for it, but I know a guy you were high on earlier this year was Lamar Jackson, and I know you kind of talked about that. You showed me a screenshot of something you were kind of putting out there in Twitter sphere, and lo and behold, you buy Lamar Jackson, you get a nice profit out of it. He started to heat up, and things worked out well for you. Let's talk about that and kind of talk about what made you decide to get in on Lamar Jackson at the time that you did? And that was earlier last year, during the NFL season.
Yeah, so at the start, leading up to the season, the beginning of the season, I stayed away from Lamar. His prices, they were just insanely high, and I didn't really feel like he could quite live up and raise those prices. But, he started slow, mid-season dip. The Ravens weren't playing very well, and his prices got very, very low. I know he's a player the hobby loves, the fans love. They want him to be good. So as, we got closer to the playoffs, they started looking like they had a chance, and they started playing well. It was a high risk, high reward investment. And I put it out there and said, the potential is here. They got to win some games. There's definitely risk, but if it all comes together, you can make some good money here. And it all worked out in my favor. So that was definitely a good one.
Good. Tambo, over to you. I know you didn't know about, Michael's Lamar Jackson call there, but kind of what's your beat on it? I know you probably have seen that, the price did take a dip early this season, kind of picked back up. How do you feel about Lamar in terms of how his season went and where we're going? This is going to be an NFL-based show. Last week we did baseball. This one is mostly going to be NFL. Tambo, over to you, my friend.
Well, yeah, and for those that don't know, being Canadian, it always gets talked about, but I pick my own team up here, right? We don't got an NFL team, and the Ravens just happen to be my squad, and they have been for many years. So I love the call and the pickup. I think it's like you said, the guy goes from Madden covers and setting records and MVPs to now nobody wants him on the face of the earth and just, dusts him, puts him down to look at those price drops. So I think it was a great call. There was absolutely an opportunity for them as the season went on. We're going to talk a lot about it with this show, sort of about off-season with the Super Bowl just ending. But I also think there's also room for mid-season and certain dips and drops that you can find these guys that you can then take advantage of later on. And you can do it with something as simple as the schedule. I can, give an example there was with these Chase Claypool cards. I'm not saying don't be high on them long term. Our boy Hefe loves them. We had him on the show a couple weeks ago. But yeah. I was saying if you knew anything about me being an AFC North guy, being a Ravens fan, you knew the Steelers schedule was extremely easy for the beginning. So I sold a bunch of my Claypool cards at that time, and it's not that they're not going to continue to go back up, but they've dropped now, I know, and I was happy that I got out of them when I did because I knew that there was going to be a little bit tougher sledding. I didn't think it was going to be that bad, what they did and how they just completely disappeared and disintegrated off the earth, but it was an example of, again, knowing your spots, picking and choosing. We're doing it. We're going to talk about some guys later, Will, with the rumor mill, right? The rumor mill.
I love the rumor mill. That's my specialty.
Well, yeah, and I think it's something that people don't watch for enough. And this is just, the example. It's almost like a rumor mill with Lamar, where they said like he's done. The teams have figured him out. The guy's year two. He's coming off of an MVP season, but still brand new in the league almost, man. If you think about it and what his longevity is, and all of a sudden people are just done with him. It's like so funny how that changes. And it'll be the same thing when we talk about some of these guys like Deshaun Watson, Carson Wentz, Dak Prescott, all these different things that you'll hear around the league. But our friend of the show, Jeff, from Sports Card Investors, talked about it earlier this week on one of his shows, and he said it's almost like nowadays you got to sell before the hype. You got to it's people want to wait for it. You got to sell just before it, and then you get there and you get your big return. So I'm excited for the show today.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Devin, can we roll that beautiful bean footage, which is market movers? Not sure if it was up, but I've got that Lamar Jackson card pulled up that Michael was talking about earlier in the season. And I mean, if you look at it now, obviously, if we look at the end of this thing right now, he's already dipped back down a little bit to $118. Guess what? It's the offseason. That's why we're doing this show. We want to get you ahead of the game. We want you to say, now is the time to buy Lamar Jackson. Don't wait until, the NFL, camp start and all the preseason hype comes in and you start getting interviews and Lamar's talking about how they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. You don't want to get in there. You want to get in right now, which is why we're doing the show today. But let's look at this because, Michael said that, he saw a dip and he kind of bought a mid-season. Let's look at that. I mean, in November, Lamar was on this PSA 10 Donruss base 133. By the middle or the beginning of December, he was at 111. $98 on some of these. Look at that, $93. You get here in January, back up to $141. Just look at this beautiful chart that kind of illustrates the ebbs and flows of what people saw with Lamar over the season. So I think that was a fantastic call, Michael. We'll get into some more questions with you, man. What are kind of your typical investments? It's an NFL show, obviously, but we did want to interview you a little bit, just kind of pick your brain. What are investments that you typically invest in?
So mostly I'm football and basketball, NBA focused for sure. So one of my favorites is works better in the off season from what I've found so far. I like to, when I see a PSA 10 take Mahomes, for example, the hype starts building and the 10 starts skyrocketing, and you'll notice the 9 lags behind, takes a couple weeks, maybe 2 weeks to catch up. Those are great opportunities. I found made a lot of money picking the lower grades when we see a higher grade start rising.
Yeah, for sure. And Tambo, that's something I think we talked about a couple of weeks ago, man. The PSA 9, and I mean, there's data to prove this. Like, it's always lagging behind for a couple, sometimes even over a month. Like, the 9 will just be behind. Like, the 10 will go from, let's say maybe have like a 60-70% increase, and the 9 is at like 8%. And you're thinking, no way the 9's that far behind. Tambo, I know that's something you talked about. I'll let you touch on that a little bit more.
Well, yeah, just because it goes to me with, what my style of, you just asked Mikey, what's his style of investing? And for me, it's sort of, icon, not just the iconic cards and all of them, but I am looking at the blue chips, the bigger names. And I thought it lagged even further with that. You had to be sharp and catch on to it quick. But if a LeBron card's going to go up to 40,000, the 9's right there behind it. It's what's going to happen on these more expensive cards, especially, is people are going to be priced out. So if you've got the funds to pick it up, I'm just saying it's not for everyone. I'm just giving you an example of where if you can catch it quick, so many people want the 10. Of course, we all do. But to Mikey's point, you can make a lot of money picking up those 9's in all these different names. And at certain levels, even on like a Mahomes, if it's going to be 3,000, the 9 might only be 500. Like there's less difference than that you want to be getting after it that way. So I see it all the time in something like that. I think it's a good way to go after it. And it's, again, just pick and choose your spots, but know what you're doing when you do it. As we always talk about, what is your investment strategy? What is your plan? When are you wanting to get out of it? And then use it that way to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think that's a big time call. And we're going to talk about some of those blue chips because, listen, we're about to get to the meat of the show. And I'm really excited about this show today. Here's the deal. There's a lot of quarterback movement in this offseason. I think the most I've seen in my lifetime. And I'm not saying that as an exaggeration. I mean, we've already seen one, let's do it this way, blockbuster trade where Matthew Stafford is going from the Lions to the Rams. Goff is going from the Rams to the Lions. But there's still a lot more dominoes to drop. If you've been watching the news, they're expecting Carson Wentz to possibly get traded this week. Ladies and gentlemen, this week, okay? And we don't know where he's going. Depending on what team he goes to, this could be a monumental move, not just for that team, but his career as a whole. We've got Deshaun Watson hanging out there. We've got Cam Newton. We don't know what's going to happen with them. Now, I was on Cam last year. Don't get me wrong, but I think Cam's going to be on the move, right? We've got, if things break right for Carolina, Teddy Bridgewater may be on the move. This is everyone's, I feel like the most hated quarterback in the NFL, another rookie. But we've got, my boy from Ohio State. He may be on the move. What is his name? Play for Washington. Haskins. He may be on the move and get signed by another team. If Deshaun goes to the Jets, then we're going to have Sam Darnold that's going to be on the move. Listen, this could be a huge offseason for the most important card and position in football at the quarterback position. So just kind of want to dive into that. Tambo, we'll kick it over to you. Then Michael, we'll kick it over to you. Tambo, how do you see this shaking out? Because I'm ready to start investing now in some of these guys that I think are going to move, especially like a Watson or, some of the bigger names. I even like Darnold as a sneaky play. If he gets in the right situation, it could be fireworks. What's kind of your read on this quarterback carousel that we're going to see in the offseason from a card perspective?
Yeah, I like what you just said there. A couple things. Again, it goes back to the investment strategy and what you're doing. But I think, like you said, it's if you want to get in on the Haskins and the Darnolds and those types, Trubisky's maybe, like let's say, let's say Wentz goes to Chicago and they move him or something. There is opportunities all around where you could find these guys. Those would be the guys I'd be focused on more so to flip and to move. We even talked about it with Wentz. I want the Wentz rumor mill, but if Wentz goes to somewhere like Indianapolis, now you've got opportunity there because they actually have a really good team. And we've talked about this in the past a little bit. This is where I would tell you where I get my investment strategy from, especially with something like quarterbacks in football, is I'm basing it more around what I think they're going to be able to do So if it's just going to be trade rumor hype and I want to move my cards, I'll move them right then and there. But if I think it's going to be to a good team that they can actually perform better and things can happen with it, maybe I will hold a few of those to see that play out. We had this conversation last season, not with a trade rumor, but with a guy like Joe Burrow. Like, I didn't even want his cards because I get that he was the hits in the box. But it was like, when are the Bengals, being back to my AFC North roots, when are the Bengals ever going to do it? He's got Rookie of the Year on tap this season, was his opportunity. After that, how is he going to beat out the Steelers, the Browns who keep getting better, the Ravens who are already good and going to continue to get better? Like, the card values are based on, and we'll get to this later in the show with the Kylers, the Deshaun's, the excitement, these fantasy performances. You can see what Mikey did with Lamar. Look when it skyrocketed, when he starts winning more games and the hype gets there again. That's where I'm saying you got to look at that situation and say, okay, I'm going to invest in this guy to flip him when the trade rumor happens, back to where I hinted at with what Jeff mentioned on his show this week. And then the other ones are, I'm going to take this guy. I know we're going to talk about Deshaun later. Deshaun ain't going nowhere. Deshaun's one of the most exciting, best fantasy output, top prospect, that you can just use in any team he goes to. He's going to put up results that are going to make his card values look good. So I think he's already on the rise. I'm interested to see the chart when you pull it up here, but that's sort of my thoughts on it right now and how I'm investing in the guys that I'm choosing.
Mikey, over to you, man. Same question, my friend.
So I definitely think one of the most important things in sports card investing is to be one step ahead of everybody else. So paying attention to these rumors and getting in on this stuff early can really, really help you make a lot of money. As we saw with Watson, when they started talking, he might probably is done in Houston. You saw his prices they didn't skyrocket, but they definitely made a move. And, I'm interested in a guy like Wentz. Maybe, he talking about the Bears for Foles, maybe, who knows what will happen. I think he's a guy who could potentially revive his career. And that, it would do a lot for his prices, really. A lot of these guys, a trade to a good team is all you need for that to see some serious movement.
Yeah, and listen, I've got the chart pulled up right now, and I've got his optic base pulled up. I was trying to get the prism. I didn't quite pull. So I'll probably pull the prism on its own. But we can already see that the car prices are going up here, right? If back in November, obviously, beginning of the season or close to the beginning, that optic was at about 124. Right now, we see it's already up to 423. Look at that, 241% increase. And look, if he's on the move right now, I think this is all hype, and I think you agree with me, Michael and Tambo. I think this is all hype right now. The difference between a guy like Deshaun Watson and a guy like, let's say, Gardner Minshew as an example, just comparing, Deshaun Watson's going to produce, right? So where these car prices are now, if he goes to the Jets, if he goes to Indianapolis, if he goes to a team where he starts carrying them to wins, this price is just going to continue to creep up. And so I'm with you guys. I definitely think Deshaun is on that list. And I'm going to hop back over to Carson Wentz because he's a guy that we've been talking about on this show since Jalen Hurts took the starting position, right? And we were saying, now's the time to buy. Now's the time to buy. And Wentz, I think he probably saw somewhat of a dip. I'll pull him up. But definitely Carson Wentz's cards are a friend of this show. We've been investing. And so I think he's going to end up in the right situation. My personal read on it, I think the perfect world scenario is Wentz going to the Colts. I think that's the perfect world scenario for him. If he goes to the Colts, a team that was already winning, I think he can automatically go to the playoffs out of that division, especially when Deshaun Watson's probably leaving the division. Think about that, people. If Carson Wentz goes to the Colts, with Deshaun Watson leaving the division, it's wide open, right? He could essentially become the best quarterback in the division right away. Now, yes, I know Urban Meyer. Man, I love Urban Meyer. Did a lot for Ohio State. I know he's going to Jacksonville, and Jacksonville is probably going to look different. And yeah, maybe they get Justin Fields, but I still don't think they're going to be anywhere near the Colts this season. I could be wrong, though. We're going to see how good Urban Meyer is this season right here. Tambo, Michael, what is your read on this particular part of it, just specifically Carson Wentz, if he goes to the Colts from a card perspective?
Go ahead, Michael.
Like you said, could be on the best team in the division, really. It's wide open. You see, if they start winning, if they come out beginning of the season when all the people are buying football cards, all the hype's on football, and win a couple games, he throws for 300, 400 yards a couple times, his prices, they're gonna really rise. They're gonna forget about all the stuff that happened this year with the Eagles, and it's gonna be a new Carson Wentz. The prices are gonna reflect that.
For sure. Tambo, over to you.
Yeah, the reason I want to see the Colts for multiple reasons. One is what you just said, but the other reason is because gets 2 games against Derrick Henry. The NFL wants to show him off. You know that gets 2 games against likely Trevor Lawrence. You know that's going to be big. So I mean, look at the upside of what you would get and the opportunity. All he would really have to do is come through. But like I said, I'd be moving the majority of it at the Colts. I would probably move like 50% on hype and then save some just in case, because I feel like there's opportunity, like what we just said, for it to have a little bit more of a ceiling. I'm going to squeeze it just a little bit more than I can. I'm in so cheap because we've been on this for months now, getting ready for this, ever since the Hurts news. So
yeah,
there's that process. And then if he does end up going to the Browns, it's like you said, it's probably not as exciting, but at the same time, that's where we can sell on the hype. And then again, there'll be big games there, right? Depending, with the Aaron Rodgers, things like that. So I would still likely move majority of it as soon as the hype comes through and whatever these offers start coming in at that point, because not as excited about it, but I really would love to see him go to the Colts. That'd be huge.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you mentioned something even more incredible. Baker Mayfield could be moving. Like what happens if Baker leaves the Browns, a team that's already that's already been in the playoffs this year and could have made it to the Super Bowl? I definitely think that I think Baker stays unless they can get a Deshaun Watson and I think that's probably it. Like if they can get Deshaun, maybe they move him. I don't think they move him outside of that. Let's go over to. And we've talked about the quarterback carousel. I want to hit on something else because this is something we talked about a few weeks ago. What happens if Patrick Mahomes wins the Super Bowl? And what happens if he loses the Super Bowl, right? And when we kind of looked at it, Mahomes was trending. I think Tambo got in at around $1,200 on the Mahomes, PSA 10 optic. He was able to sell for around $3,000. Obviously, it was a lot of hype going into the Super Bowl. But if you look at the car prices, I haven't got it pulled up yet, but I am going to pull that up. Mahomes loses the Super Bowl, and I checked Mahomes' prices today, and they were back down to where I'm just going to start striking again, right? I feel like I'm just going to start buying. Maybe I get in at $2,000 today. Maybe I get in at $1,500 over the summer. But my point is the price has come back down to where now we're back in a reasonable striking range. What's your read on Mahomes? I think he's still got plenty of upside. I think he'll still get another Super Bowl. He just happened to run into the GOAT of all GOATs. What's your read on that, Tambo and Michael?
Yeah, for me on that one, that was a big flip. I was very happy with that one. It's kind of what I expected. But like I said, I learned this the hard way on other cards in the past. We always talk about, in daily fantasy and stuff, you win or learn, you don't necessarily lose. And that's what it was. I'd made this mistake before, held it just a little bit too long. And I wanted to sell on the hype of him being in the Super Bowl against Tom Brady. My worst case scenario, maybe I left 300-400 on the table. I know I just talked about squeezing it for all the juice, but in the end, even if he won the Super Bowl, I didn't really expect it to continue to skyrocket. I expected, yes, I might have lost $300-400, but then it starts to drop because we're going to get the off-season dip. So I took my chances. I already took a huge increase. It's a solid flip, made some great money on it. 1,800 was the flip profit. And so I'm going to take that all day and run with it. And now I can literally just wait a little bit longer. He actually did lose the Super Bowl. Look what they're already back down to. And I'm not saying they're going to go even further, but right now my thing is too, Will, is a lot of people, I know Cam asked about it, is the GOAT cards, the icon cards. Everyone's getting out of these current names. Even a guy like Mahomes is a long-term baby GOAT. They were dubbing him, and we're hoping to see that continue on. We expect to see that. So I would still put him up in that class. But I'm talking about if we were talking NBA or even other quarterbacks that we sort of mentioned on the show, the Daks, the Deshauns, the Kylers, the Lamars, some people are moving those cards to get into these iconic cards of whether it's Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or John Elway or whatever they want to go out and find, sticking with football. And I think that's the situation is people want money right now. So they're willing to sell it lower. And we could even see this dip back down to, like you said, maybe 1,500.
Oh, we get there. It's money in the bank.
I'll just buy another. I'll just buy it back because it's going to get there again. He's going to make big things happen again next year. They always are going to, and it will just continue to rise when we get back in season. Most people are just flipping money, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and then they got to get back to Peter. So that's how the money's going to flip.
Michael, over to you, my brother.
Yeah, so Tyler touched on for a second about buying up the modern is down and the icon cards are up, and I think Mahomes, even if modern cards are struggling, will be one that is a surefire investment because everybody is high on Mahomes. He's the next great thing. I think you're going to get better prices, obviously better prices than if they won the Super Bowl, And there's no better time to buy than fresh off that loss, because it's going to go right back up where it was. We know it is. You just got to make the move, make the buy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the good thing for me about Mahomes is we've already seen a dip today. I mean, the Super Bowl was 2 days ago, and we're already down today. Like, we've already seen the dip, right? On the optic base, looks like it was, hold on, let's go today here. Yeah, so it looks like the optic base was already, $1,940.50. And then that premier level PSA 10, $2,499.99. Pop of $371 on that select premier level, though, versus a pop of $26.98. Not really worried about it. I still like the optic base for Mahomes. I think that's a fantastic card to get into. And I honestly think it's going to dip a little bit more as we get a little further away from the Super Bowl, a little closer into the offseason, where they're kind of the forgotten kids of the NFL cards. I do think it'll dip. But as we've talked about, Tambo, Michael, we're going to have to start buying a lot earlier, I think, than we're used to, right? I think people have caught on to
that, though, because this was the other point Jeff made, and I think it's a good one. I think it does still stand true, because I'm with Mikey that this is going to just start going back up. People like us will start jumping in at some point here and say, okay, we know he's not going to go completely to the floor, so when's the right time? But one thing Jeff pointed out was that it's typically been the end of February. And if you think about it, the Super Bowl ends. What ends up happening is some people sell right away, but then others try and hang on to the value. The chart shows it. It's not just everyone selling off. Some are still sitting on eBay right now. You can go look at them, and they're trying to hang on for $3,000, but they're realizing, wait, if other people are selling it for $1,950, they start to get scared. Maybe they go to $1,850 just so they can get theirs sold because they don't want it to be $15, and they're worried about that. So I think we might have another week or two. We have seen trends buck just a little bit earlier. So I wouldn't wait till the end of February, but I'll give it maybe one more week, or maybe the next, we joked a little bit about here but NBA Top Shots is out there now, and other things that people are wanting to flip their money around to and get involved with, that maybe they need to get out of this card and get their money out and sell it off. So I'll give it like another week and just see what it does. I don't think it's going to kill me or us, but I'm going to try that out and just see, but I am going to try and pounce a little bit earlier than the last week of February. That's for me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, this is something I've been tracking. As soon as the Super Bowl was over, actually, I started tracking it right then, because I knew Mahomes was a target of mine. And that's going to get into our next question here. Who are some of the guys we want to buy in the offseason, like our personal targets? We're saying, hey, I want to get a collection of this person, this person, this person. These are for sure targets that I'm going after in the offseason, because I want to get ahead of the game. And I think something I was mentioning earlier, I think people are getting smarter. Like I said, I think people are buying early. We see it with baseball. We're not even really in spring training yet, and I've seen some baseball prices going through the roof, where I'm used to kind of getting in now. I did get in a lot earlier, like, back in December and stuff like that. So I was able to pick up some pieces that I wanted. But, like, if I wanted a guy like Tatis right now, I'm almost willing to just wait. Like, forget it. I'll get him in the offseason, or I'll get it, later on. Like, I'm willing to just pass on Tatis. I was late to that party because I was investing in other guys. But hopping back on football, personal targets, Michael, hand it over to you. Who are you kind of going to target in the offseason?
So we already touched on Deshaun for a while, so I won't say too much about that. But I've been picking up some of his optics when they were in the 300 range.
Yeah.
So we've seen some nice growth there. And my number two, who I'm really, really high on, is Josh Allen. He came and he had his breakthrough season. A lot of people didn't believe he could. I honestly didn't believe he could, but they looked really good. That defense is good. Him and Stephon Diggs have it going. He's definitely one of my top targets right now. I love Josh Allen.
I mean, I think that's a good pickup. The other thing, too, is guess what? Josh Allen is not going to have to deal with Tom Brady anymore. They're pretty much going to be at the top of that division, I think, most years, as long as he's healthy, the team's healthy. I know they lost a coordinator, so we'll see how that changes things. But, let's just hope they kind of stay on track. I love that call on Josh Allen. Tambo, over to you, my friend.
He might have to deal with Deshaun if Deshaun goes to the Jets.
Yeah, that's the other one.
But,
well, listen, that's going to help the card prices if they have to play against each other. That's going to be fantastic.
I will say this. I like that call because I actually missed the boat on Josh Allen. And now I know we're just going to get dips on everybody. So like we just talked about him, Mahomes, those types of guys that are going to be there. But I've been focused on fantasy and big performances. Like I'm still trying to apply my daily fantasy knowledge and bring that across. And so we already talked about Wentz for that reason. But don't forget about the guy that left him behind. And right now, because he's still coming off a rookie season in Jalen Hurts, there still is room that maybe you feel like you're overpaying, but you don't know what the ceiling is. And I still think there's a lot of juice there. And he's got a pretty good squad around him, right? Dallas Goedert, he's got some good receivers, Rieger, and these guys that we want to see hyped up. So I think there's an opportunity there still to get in. I really do kind of like him. Herbert, we're kind of late on, right? So if I'm going to go to a guy that's out of Tua and Hurts and some of those and Burrow, I'm actually going to pick up Hurts. I think he's the guy for me. And like I said, it's still fresh and new. Maybe you can pull him from some packs if you want to open some retail or who knows what. But I'm going to look for some of his cards while they're still cheap enough. And we've seen it even last season, Will, watching the stuff in Daily Fantasy. He puts up some big fantasy games, and we see how the people react to that so quickly, which can give you some really good buy and sell opportunities on some of these rookies and that. So him, and then lastly, I just want to bring up one more guy because I had him in my mail day. But Dak Prescott, we're still waiting to see on this contract coming off of injury and all that. But realistically, his cards to me are cheap for what his upside could be in his ceiling. He's one of the most exciting guys out there when he's on his game. They have a great team around them. And then don't forget this too, when you're investing in cards, what is the fan base that you're around? Well, there's millions of Dallas Cowboy fans, which means it doesn't really matter as much. I still would relate that to his pop counts. And I don't even think his pop counts are that crazy. So I would double down there and say, you've got all these Cowboys fans. You've got an exciting quarterback. When they sign him, that's going to be some hype. When they get back to winning games with him, that's going to be some hype. So I'll definitely get in on some Dak Prescott as well.
Yeah, man. I know we're talking about quarterbacks. This is a guy I think I'm going to invest in. This is a non-quarterback. I am going to pick up some quarterbacks. Listen, man, I'm telling you right now, I think, and hear me out on this, I think position players, right, are going to start coming back into play. I really do. And let's talk about it. When we look at the quarterbacks, we already know we want to probably target, like I love the Dak call, right? Because, he was kind of going early in the season, put up big numbers. If Dak would have went the whole season, he might have led the league in passing and touchdowns this year because their defense was they just couldn't help him at all, right? I'm going to start getting in on Saquon Barkley right now. I know he's a running back, right? But if he comes back healthy, if this team can get some continuity, I think we saw the Giants turn somewhat of a corner, right? They were playing competitive football, playing a really big market. I'm not saying Saquon Barkley is a hold, right? This isn't somebody I'm going to hold. I don't think he's going to the Super Bowl this year, but I just think from a pop perspective, you talk about big fantasy performances. You're talking about guys that are going to be, and not just fantasy, in real life performances, right? He's got some star appeal in New York. If he comes back healthy, the cutbacks, the catches, everything's going to be working in his favor. Jason Garrett is the offensive coordinator, and I know Jason Garrett is kind of a blah offensive coordinator, but I think he's realized, hey, we got to get the ball into the hands of our playmakers. Saquon is obviously a playmaker. He's a guy this offseason I'm going to want to target. I'm not saying I'm going out buying 30 cards, but 5 to 6 Saquon Barkleys as part of my portfolio. That's a guy I'm really high on in terms of buying really low for the offseason and waiting for some of those big performances. And then at the quarterback position, I think I'm going to target Sam Darnold in the offseason. I think I'm not buying a lot of Sam Darnold right now because I don't know. He may end up in a situation where he just doesn't play, right? But we know with all the hype of Deshaun, if Deshaun goes to New York, if they did a swap for a swap, I'd probably feel terrible because that means he's going to have a terrible season. But my point is, if we get him out of New York, what if they trade him to San Francisco? Hypothetically, he ends up in San Francisco. He's going to look like a stud out there because Shanahan is going to have that team rolling, right? He'll feel like he has a quarterback that's got a little bit of juice, can get in and change things a little bit. So that's kind of where I am in terms of some of my offseason grabs. And I'm with you on Hurts as well. He's another guy that I think is going to be big time for us. Tambo, you got anything?
Did you talk at all about Josh Rosen? Because you just mentioned the 49ers, and I think they brought him back on a one-year deal there, and he was a first-round overall pick as well. But I mean, just from I guess what I'm saying is because you're talking Darnold and Barkley, these are flips, and I don't mind them.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, but that's again back to knowing your strategy and what you're doing with them. I think those are good calls. I like the Barkley one more personally, just because back to my same type of thing. I mentioned Dallas Cowboys and the fan base. The New York market is strong. There's a lot of people playing cards in New York City. It's not a small city by any means. So that's where you want to try and target little things like that too, where it's just an opportunity to have more buyers, more eyes on your stuff. And if he goes back to back 2-3 touchdown weeks or something, that could be a prime opportunity to flip these cards for 3, 4, 5x what you got them at, and easy sales, right? Just plug them in, put them up for sale, and boom, there's the offers coming in or buy now, and you're done. So I like that call. Wide receivers, I was going to mention earlier. I don't know right this second, but because I know people were buying at the wrong time. I was on this guy before, and then I know people started buying late in the season when the Jets made the mistakes and the Jags were now the favorite for the number one. But the DJ Charks, the LaVisca Chenaults, I know we're talking quarterbacks. These are wide receivers. But if you how are you going to get in on Trevor Lawrence for cheap? He's going to be a ceiling price the minute he comes out. I'll still buy in at that because we see the long term of it. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying how can you get access to it via some big performances and fantasy and flips. I like these guys. Chenault is a playmaker. They use him in 10 ways, not one way. So there's a way they can use him almost like their version of a Tyreek Hill. And again, you don't see big boosts out of it, but you could see a good little flip out of it. And there's not that many cards of them out there. And then Chark is just incredible when he's on. Now he gets Trevor Lawrence. I could imagine that card having some value as well, something like a Devontae Adams type card or something like that range.
Yeah, for sure. And look, this is the guy I'm gonna hop backwards and then we'll hop forward. Michael J, question for you, my man. Do you think Aaron Rodgers stays in Green Bay, or do you think he leaves? Now, everything right now seems to be pointing to the fact that he may stay, but I'm still not completely sold on that. What's your read on Aaron Rodgers if you've been following that? Because listen, if he goes to another team that could get to a Super Bowl, my goodness, that news is going to spike his cards dramatically, I think. So what's kind of your read on Aaron Rodgers? We'll hit mail day and then we'll be out of here.
I mean, so they made the Jordan Love pick, and I was thinking Rodgers has this season and he's done 100%, bad blood. I wasn't thinking it was going to work. And I mean, the whole season, really, I thought it. And then they started playing really well. Rodgers, MVP Rodgers, and the Packers looked outstanding. I think that Green Bay is going to commit to him this offseason. I think they're going to make some moves, particularly at the receiver spot, give him some more weapons. And I mean, I think they're going to run it back for one more year and see if they can make a move on a ring. But if he's out and is on the move, that's going to be some serious news in the card world right there.
Yeah. Tambo, over to you.
I was going to say, those are some great points, Maggie, because I was going to say I would love, pun intended, if he would go, because my card collection would, because I got a lot of Jordan Love that I'm sitting on because I had the same thought process as everybody else, right? I said, here's what it's going to be. But now I think, too, what Mikey's point just made me think of right away is not only did he take them all that way and do all that, the MVP, et cetera, who just won the Super Bowl? Tom Brady, 43-year-old Tom Brady. It showed that you can pack them together with some dudes, get them out on the field together and make it happen, and they could take down the mighty Chiefs and win the Super Bowl. Green Bay was not that far away from this thing.
They
right there, Devontae Adams, they got what they need out there already. They've got a good little squad, great defense. It's all in place. Jair Alexander on D, they really have it across. Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams can come in and do some stuff if he's down. They really aren't going to be out of it by any means. Why not just get him a weapon or two more? So that just made me think about that out loud right now, and I kind of like that call quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, I mean, and look, this is what it's all about, man. You exchange information, you start getting ideas. And now that I'm thinking about it, if Aaron Rodgers stays, you know what I'm going to want to do? I think I'm just going to go and buy me a few Devontae Adams right now. If the minute I hear Aaron Rodgers is staying in Green Bay, I'm going to pick up Devontae. Because at that point, he's still going to be his number one. And I think they get him a rookie. If we see them pick up a rookie receiver in the first round and no news has come out, I think we know for sure they're keeping Aaron Rodgers. In my opinion, right? So that's where I am. Let's go to mail day. Listen, we're going to start with Michael. Michael's got a fantastic card. We've been talking about a lot of these players, but that's okay. It's still good for you guys to know that, look, we put our money where our mouth is. We're not just touting this stuff. We're investing with what we're talking about. Michael, over to you.
Yeah, so as you see, it's that Deshaun Watson optic was my pickup. Bought it in the $300 range. I mean, this is one of my favorite ways to invest. You can do it. I mean, I love to trade the news, really. I mean, there's no risk of injury in the season. You don't have to worry about performance. You just the hype, you buy it, the hype comes, it boosts the card, you sell the card, make money. You can, I mean, we touched on Saquon and Dak earlier, picking them up with the injury. They don't have, I mean, Saquon and Dak, they're both already rising. You just got to get in early, let the hype build, sell into the hype. They don't even have to play. They don't have to play well. So I love to trade like that. That's why I picked up the Watson. That's why I'm really high on Watson and telling anyone who will listen to buy Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, well, listen, our lovely COO Cam has been on Deshaun for a while. So, listen, we're with you. Tambo, over to you, my friend.
I don't know what one Devin and I gave a Dak and a Wentz, and we'd already talked about it enough. But I think what was funny is all day long we were shooting back and forth in our message, getting ready for the show. And Will says, "What do you guys?" I said, "Well, I may as well show my Wentz off. We've been talking about it long enough." So I show him the Prism PSA 10. He goes, "Okay, well that's cool. I got the Wentz Select or BGS 9.5 True Gem," and I'm like, "Okay, well that's funny because I got that same card in a Dak PSA 10. So I flipped that back. I said, I guess I'll go with Dak then. And then he goes 10 minutes later, he says, "Hey, here's Mikey's card," and flips over the Deshaun Watson optic, which the joke of the show, Mikey, you don't know, but it's been true everything. Like Canada, we wait forever to get our cards. That's sort of always the downfall. So I always have to buy way in it back then. So all I could show him was after he sent me your optic of Deshaun Watson was the picture of what I purchased it at on eBay a month ago. And was like, "Yeah, I got one of those coming too eventually." So it'll be on a future show. But that Mahomes I did have on the show when I paid $1,200 for it and then flipped it recently. The Dak and the Wentz, we talked enough about. I'm high on both those situations. Really, we talked about it all, and even how I plan on moving them, what I would do in a situation of if he goes to this team or if he goes to that team. So I'm big on those two right now. I think they're going to be big payoff for me, and I love the Watson call that Mikey had over there as well.
Yeah, man, and Tambo already talked about it. I've got that Wentz Select 9.5. Man, I got that one for a steal. Like I almost don't even want to tell the people. Tambo, I'm always out here hunting, right? Trying to find a deal. I got that one on a sweet deal. So I think that's one that we'll be able to flip. And I'm probably going to flip it right away. Like I've got enough. We've been buying Wentz long enough to know I'm gonna sell most on the hype, keep 2 or 3 just in case he makes it to the Super Bowl. And that's kind of where I'll be. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us. Michael, thank you for coming on. New friend of the show. We'll probably have to try to get him on next month as well. We'll talk about that. Tambo, thank you. Jeff at Sports Card Investor, thank you, man. Great friend of the show. Don't forget, go over to sportscardinvestor.com. 20% off your first payment. That's for the month or for the year. Get access to all the tools. Get access to the app, which is free. Get access to everything. Sports Card Investor has a grading service that you can submit through now. Incredible product that Jeff's got going on over there. So excited to be partner up. I'm Chief Justice. That's Michael J. Cards. That's Toe Tag and Tambo. Welcome to Cardstock After Lock. See you at the Castle next week, 7:30 p.m. ESPN.